Decision Roy Hilligo's Section 1. Even after a year, Chad still called a Sant Patent Uncle Bill. But we thought our job had become that of mother and father until that letter arrived from the 6th Artillery Headquarters in North Africa in our mailbox in East Orange. New Jersey Chad had come to us as an English refugee. He was supposed to stay until they had put Mr. Hitler in the bag, as he expressed it, and he could go back to his adored father, Major Jelisinov, the Royal Artillery. In other words, he had been sent to the United States, like many other English children, to live with an American family for the duration of the war, after which time he planned to return home to London. But Major Jolison had been killed while resisting a Nazi tank attack in the North African desert. Chad had taken the news without the slightest show of emotion. Probably Pat and I alone realized the sharp pain that must have torn through his young heart when he learned that his father was dead. He was English, and his people were fighting a desperate battle, so he could not let his own individual tragedy show. England meant much to him, but when he had recovered a little from the shock, he seemed resigned to living with us and becoming an American. He had had no one else but his father. "I shall try very hard," he told us seriously, in that thin, rather sharp voice of his, to be as you would want your own boy to be. "I shall get onto your American ways as quickly as I can, and try to make you quite proud of me," he smiled. "I shall even admire your revolutionary patriots." So we could not help loving him, you see, and hoping he really wanted to stay with us forever. Even after the war had ended, he did brilliantly, and an early problem, the way the other boys at school kidded him about his English accent and manners, had disappeared. Everyone in town knew how bravely his father had died, and this gave Chad a certain romantic interest. In fact, everything had gone beautifully, till that letter came from a member of the 6th Artillery, Captain Burrows. The 6th Artillery had been Major Jolison's military unit. Pat held the letter out to me one evening, the moment I came in the door. But she was too upset emotionally to wait until I read it. He was terribly fond of Chad's father, Bill, she said, and he'd like to offer Chad a place to live with his mother in her home just outside London. I looked up from letter. He says he recognizes the danger, but he's like all Englishmen, I suppose, Pat said. Rain or shine, bombs or no bombs, they think that England is the only place in the world to live. And of course, he thinks Chad will be company for his mother. She's old and alone. Oh, Bill, do you think he'll go? I shook my head. I don't know, but I've been afraid he would someday. But he has no relatives there. Surely he'd rather be with us. It's like you said, rain or shine, and he's not really our boy, Pat. We just hope he would be, and he's tried to pretend. She sighed. I know. I was only hoping, not talking sense. Well, she took my arm. Let's go up to his room and tell him. Chad was lying on his small stomach reading when we entered his room. He got quickly to his feet and shook my hand. He always did that when I got home evenings. "How'd the stock market go today, Uncle Bill?" He was picking up our ways fast. I handed him the letter. I watched his blue eyes move quickly, back and forth across the page, and when they reached the bottom, they stayed there. He was thinking rapidly. Suddenly, I knew he'd made his decision, because his face lost all expression. A habit of his. "Are you going, dear Pat?" asked. Softly, he nodded. "I must, Aunt Pat." "They're raining bombs on London's sun," I said. "I know," he said. "That's why I'm going." "I don't understand." I said, "I mean." For a moment he paused. "Well, when your country's having its most difficult times, that's when it needs you most." That sounded a bit too grown up too, like something he had read somewhere. I looked suspiciously.